Welcome to Midway Minute, everybody. I'm Scott Koral. He is Kevin Kaduk. And the Bears took it on the chin in the wild card game against the Saints, losing 21-9.
Yeah.
Wow. Kevin, there's a lot to unpack. So your thoughts about the game itself?
Yeah. Well, I think that we saw a Bears loss coming. I don't think we saw quite the way that this unfolded. I really thought that this offense was going to be able to score at least, some points, at least a real touchdown, not a garbage time, touchdown to Jimmy Graham with no time left on the clock. Defense actually showed up for a while, held out as much as they could. I think, they did as well as they could, down as many men and starters as they were, but they couldn't just make it happen. And, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like all day long, I wasn't really looking forward to this. And then they kind of drew me in, piqued my interest, and then did what they always do and just let me down. Did you feel the same way?
Okay, to start the game, Saints, basically didn't do much. And then the Bears came down and they were like, all right, it was a 3 and out, but you were just like, all right, well, maybe they have a chance. The second drive, Javon Wims, wide open in the end zone, right through the wickets. Like, dude.
So we talked about that Javon Wims would always be known as the guy who got into a fight during the Saints game, and he somehow one-upped himself.
Yeah. And then decided, I'm gonna pass the torch to Anthony Miller so he can get ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct and throwing a punch at CJ Gardner-Johnson. That guy is a bear killer. So the only way to maybe stop that is to find a way to trade for him. And then that way he can't, it's hard to kill you if you're from within.
Yeah. Although given the Bears' luck, the flags would probably start getting thrown against him.
Right.
It's so crazy. I don't know. The checklist of things that went wrong in this game is so long, and the checklist of things that went right is zero. I guess there was a big man touchdown with Jenkins. That was kind of the one highlight for the Bears, and maybe, had they been able to score 7 points there, it's a different game. Like, then Cole Kmet gets flagged for the worst unsportsmanlike penalty you've ever seen in your life.
You're throwing the ball to the ref, and the ref who you're throwing the ball to thinks you're throwing the ball at Kamara, and it's over his head and at you, but you think it
look,
the Bears.
There's so many people on that team gave, reasons for other people on the team to point fingers. A lot of people screwed up, but at the end of the day, that team just didn't show up. And it's just Manning. Obviously, they're an 8-8 team. They were probably a 6-10 team, maybe even a 5-11 team if things, don't go their way in a couple of those games. So, it's not like we were sitting here expecting an extended Super Bowl run, but, as Bears fans, you still want to see them show up and maybe even pull off an upset. Didn't come close to happening today. So, here's the question. Where do they possibly go from here?
Well, we were discussing this, during the game, but I can't see how 2 of the 3, at least, stays between Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky. Today basically showed that Nagy has no trust in Trubisky. I don't have any trust in Trubisky because even on a 3-yard hitch, he can't hit a guy. So, that notwithstanding, but Nagy's offense really doesn't tailor well towards Trubisky's strengths. So that has to be a divorce. Ryan Pace, you selected Nagy, who went to the playoffs 2 years out of 3. So, in that respect, maybe you keep Nagy, but you selected Nagy, who everybody is saying is an idiot. And then you selected Trubisky, who truly, well, at least he may be a smart guy, but football-wise, he's not a smart football player. So you selected 2 guys that are idiots.
It's so tough. It's so tough stuff, Scott, though, because it's like, okay, do you really trust the decision makers to go out and nail this decision again? And that's not to say that you shouldn't line it up for another kick, because you're going to have to. I tend to think that Trubisky is gone. I really felt like with the way that he played against the lower teams, had he been able to show any flashes of that, he would have been suitable as a placeholder at the right price. But at this point, it's like, okay, why bring him back? It doesn't make that much sense. we're looking at a 2021, which there's not going to be a lot of expectations. You do have pieces there, but this is not a one off season makeover. This is a multi-season makeover to get this team to the point where they're, a franchise at the level of the Saints or the Packers or the Rams, teams that are at the top of the NFC. The Bears may, have had a few short dalliances with that these past few seasons, but they are not a consistent power.
So what do you think the Bears need? In this offseason, what do the Bears need?
Like, where do you start? Everyone's talking about, hey, bring in Deshaun Watson. Trade as many picks as you can for Deshaun Watson. Okay, he gets here. Great. Who's he throwing the ball to? Anthony Miller is on his way out the door. You're probably going to have to pay Allen Robinson a lot of money. Obviously, you're going to have to pay Allen Robinson a lot of money. Does Allen Robinson even want to stay here in this situation? So if he's gone, who's he throwing to? Jimmy Graham, he may not be back. Cole Kmet's a good piece. You've got good pieces, luckily some good pieces showed themselves on that offensive line, but you've just got so many different things. You've got a secondary where Eddie Jackson was a man missing. So now you need help back there when that was supposedly a position of strength. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Draft the best player available to you. Don't trade up picks. Just if Pace stays here, make the right decisions, the scary thing is like, okay, is he going to be a lame duck general manager and make decisions like that? That's not going to benefit the Bears. So if he's sitting here to save his job, and he tried to save his job in 2020 by bringing in Nick Foles, it's not helping the long-term health of the franchise.
Well, they do have Nick Foles next year. He's under contract. So no matter what, you got that.
Yeah.
The problem is, you mentioned that they don't have any wide receivers because Allen Robinson is a free agent. Anthony Miller pretty much showed himself today that there's no way you can really keep him. Javon Wims, you can't drop that touchdown. This is a playoffs, man. You can't drop that. So what do you have beyond those guys? You have DeAndre Carter.
That's the thing. You should at least be able to squint and look at a roster and say, hey, can I actually make out a team that is capable of winning the Super Bowl here? I mean, not after squinting and after a case of Miller Lite can you come to that conclusion.
Oh no, Keystone, man. Keystone or Schaefer, you can make out a lot of things with those things. But if I'm Allen Robinson, I tell whoever the new GM is going to be, because I can't imagine Ryan Pace is going to be the guy. But I'm telling the new GM, I am not re-signing with the Chicago Bears until you get a quarterback, period. And you have to get one that can actually play good football, not another Trubisky.
If you were forced to keep one of those three, who are you keeping?
Between Pace, Nagy, and Trubisky?
Correct.
Nagy. Because the only thing I want to see is Nagy's offense better with a competent QB? Because at this point, it hasn't shown with a non-competent QB, but then a lot of offenses wouldn't be very good with a non-competent QB. There are people who have debated with me plenty. Well, I think Trubisky could go to another team and be very successful. The problem is, and I mentioned this before in this little segment, if you can't hit a 3-yard hitch or an 8-yard comeback route, how are you going to play, let's say in the Chiefs offense? How are you going to do that when you have to push the ball downfield? You can't hit a 3-yard out.
I don't know if you watched the Bills game yesterday, but when you see Josh Allen do what he did on that touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs, he's not even playing the same sport as Trubisky. And no. I think, obviously I like Trubisky. I've sat here and I've defended him, but we obviously see what his limitations are, and they were quite apparent tonight. He's not the future. Again, you can't squint and say, hey, I can see Mitch Trubisky lifting a Lombardi trophy. That's not going to happen. So how do you go about finding your Josh Allen? I don't know. You're not going to do it at pick 20 in the draft.
No,
maybe you can. I don't know. But
I doubt it, because I think if there are so many QB hungry teams out there, as supposedly they are, allegedly Miami is a good shot at getting Deshaun Watson. So if you don't have that route, what route do you have? Maybe the Jets will give up Sam Darnold. Maybe you can find a Gardner Minshew who you wouldn't have to give up that much for. maybe to be at least a 1 yard bridge so you can get a quarterback in 2022.
Yeah.
But at this point, I don't see this roster going anywhere. Like, it's just you don't have a quarterback that can do anything on offense, and you have a defense that, unless the scheme changes, that defense isn't going anywhere either. Like, it's trash.
Yeah.
So you have a team that is good for 3-13 in 2021 as it stands right now.
It's an expensive team. It doesn't have a lot of cap flexibility, so it's not looking great. But as always, they are the drug we cannot quit. So we will be here always talking about the Bears going into this offseason. They're always interesting, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, it sure would be nice to get an extended playoff run here at some point, but it's hard to see it coming soon.
Not with this current roster. I'd like to see what they do in the offseason, but I think that there's going to be a lot of changes, and it may just start with Ted Phillips at the top. And as much as, like I said, I don't think he deserves to leave the organization because he's a money man, and the Bears have made money over the years, 2020 not included, just because of the pandemic. But the Bears over the years have made a lot of money. So I don't think he should leave the organization, but he should leave football operations to football people. So shift him over to the marketing end, make him the president of that end of the building, but make a football position so that a football president can hire everybody on down.
I almost wonder if we're going to see what happened with the Blackhawks, where Ryan Pace gets elevated to a football president and brings in a GM. Now, can he identify the right person? I don't know. He can't identify players, so who knows? But look, this is all conversation. I think for tomorrow, we're going to be really sitting with our eye on Twitter, seeing if anything happens.
Something's going to happen.
Something's going to happen.
Let's face facts now. Something's definitely going to happen. I don't know if Ryan Pace is going to get left on the tarmac like Lane Kiffin, but he's going to get left somewhere.
Yeah. So anyway, Scott, look, this was the 17th time we talked after a Bears game. There was some highs. There was a lot more lows, but all in all, I had a good, first season with you here on Midway Minute. I appreciate everyone who watched one of these things. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. We're going to be talking about tons of stuff in the offseason, plus the Bulls, the Blackhawks, Cubs, and Sox. Make sure you sign up at midwayminute.win for the morning newsletter, fresh in your inbox every morning. Scott, thanks again, and we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely. It could be as soon as Monday.